Daft sausage.
Right, so today what I'm doing is a full review across the vacuum clean, a full house clean, using this machine, which is the SEBO X7 automatic boost. And the reason I've picked this particular house is A, I've got the customer's permission, and B, there's lots of different types of flooring which give the machine a good workout. And there's also another reason, which you might have already seen one of those, which is Marley, who's a lovely lurcher, and there's also a cat. So there's pet hair to contend with too. And the reason I'm doing it this way, I'm just trying out this style of review because it means you get to see how easy the vacuum is to actually use. It's alright showing you how great the suction is, wonderful, but how practical is it in a house with pets and lots of different types of flooring? Is it practical at all? And how easy is it to manoeuvre about? Because this one doesn't have a wibbly wobbly head, as my dad affectionately called it on one of my other reviews. I'll put a link up in the corner just so that you know what I'm talking about. And that was a Hoover, an actual Hoover, a Hoover vacuum cleaner. So that's what we're doing today, and hopefully you'll be able to see the real strengths and weaknesses in this machine. Now where this machine does fall down, unlike the SEBO Felix, is it's not great at getting into the edges, and it's actually not great at getting under cupboard units like this, because it's actually quite high. I'll show you what I mean on this camera here. It's actually quite high, and so I don't know whether you can see that, but it is actually scuffed from various units I've tried to get underneath. But where this comes into its own is with the wand. Because the wand pulls out easy and slots back in easy. I think I might have to show you on that on a different camera because I don't think I quite caught that, but we'll show you that from a different angle soon. Yeah, just to show you that, it pulls out easy, you can run it down the edge, job done. And then it slots back in and you can just carry on as normal. So any bits it doesn't pick up, you can just get the wand out. And get him. And it's also useful for doing things like spider webs, skirting boards, windowsills, and so on. Brilliant for that. Now what I will show you while I'm vacuuming this, while I'm doing this, I'll show you another clip of where this machine falls down with the wand. So, and this is the big fault on this machine, the big flaw. When you pull the wand out to use it, ideally, I'll show you here, you should have the machine like that. You pull the wand out and use it. Now, if you're using it in a dark corner, if you wanted to get the wand into a dark recess, with the light it'd be useful to actually have the light on. But the only way to have the light on is to have the brush running on the floor. That means you've either got to, that means you've actually got to keep the vacuum moving. So the brush doesn't damage any flooring. It's not so bad on a carpet, but on a soft lino, there's a good chance of it scoring the floor. This would be made so much easier if only SEBO had thought on to alter what the micro switch does that turns the light off when you put the vacuum in the upright position. What I mean by that is, with the vacuum, there's lots of pet hair on this floor. With the vacuum in the upright position, the brushes are switched off. But the light's the useful bit, and the brush is the unuseful bit when the vacuum's in the upright position. So why have they done it that way around? It makes absolutely no sense. You do not need the brushes running when the vacuum's in the upright position, but the light would be useful. It actually infuriates me, because if it wasn't for that, this machine would be pretty much perfect. The versatility of this machine, in terms of what you can do with the wand above the floor, and not just the floor, is superb. It's quick, it's easy to do other work with it. But as soon as you... Sorry, I'm rambling a bit there. But with the fact that you can't turn the brushes off, it makes it a little bit hazardous. And as I say, it stops what is potentially a useful feature of the vacuum, i.e. being able to use the light when you're using the wand. It stops you from being able to do that, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. What I should have shown you actually is the state of this bag at the moment. Because the bag is actually pretty full, and yet the suction on this is superb. Right, I'm just going to move the camera around so that I can show you. I'm not going to put the light on in here so you can see how effective it is into this dark little utility room. I hope that's showing that up. There's a little bit of something there, look. It is actually really good. It shines at the right angle, does the light. It actually covers the floor directly in front of the machine. Whereas the Hoover H upright, the lights are really weak. And you can't see where you actually need to see which is in front of the actual vacuum itself. Right, small cupboard time. See, like now, I've got the vacuum in the upright position and the brushes are running, and it makes no sense. I think I can hear Laura coming downstairs, if I'm not mistaken. See what I mean about this wand? That you can just quickly whip over skirting boards with it, get the dust off. Superb. It actually makes the functionality of this machine, well, for me it just makes it so useful. It improves the functionality of this machine. It actually makes it worth overlooking the flaw, but this machine would be perfect. I know you're going to hear me rambling on about that quite a bit, is the way this machine tackles flooring, the brush roll aspect. I don't know whether you can see this, but the brush is currently lowering itself at the moment. The green light's on. I'll just put this on the screen as well, just to show you. I've been using the Hoover H upright for a while this was being repaired, and in one particular customer's house I've been using the Hoover H upright. I've used it a couple of times, and I went there earlier this week with this after this had been repaired and used it, and he sent me a message asking if I'd changed vacuums. I was a bit curious. I was a bit worried in case it's bad news. But he said he'd just noticed a noticeable difference in the way the pile had been agitated and improved. He said it looks a lot better. Which is great. I rang him just to find out what the situation was, because I was a bit apprehensive. Right, okay, so what I'll just show you before I do these windowsills is, the other great thing about this machine is, and I showed it on my first review, is in here there is a little catch, and when you push the wand in, it presses on that catch, which makes the hose pull out. If that catch is out, you can't pull the hose out. And you might wonder why that's useful. Well, because it means you can pull the hose out, put the brush on, and then do things like dust windowsills and so on. Now, okay, so here's where not being able to switch the brush roll off is a problem. I don't know whether you can hear this, but as I move this machine, as I move this hose, as I do this work here, it's pulling the brush onto the floor. Now I could do this with it, or I could put it on backwards and just leave it backwards and concentrate. But if I do that, it pulls the machine over. If you have it that way, it pulls the brush onto the floor. SEBO, what were you thinking? Seriously. if you've got one of these machines, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Whether you agree with me about the Brushroll, or whether you think I'm just being pernickety. Personally, I don't think I am. I mean, I use this on a daily basis, 5 to 6 days a week. And this saves me so much time having the access to this above the floor cleaning off. And look, how useful is that? Quick switch, turn the brush around, and you're getting cobwebs off the ceiling. You can dust on the top of the dado rail just by turning the brush round. Top of the mirror. Top shelf of high bookcases. Don't know whether that's in frame there. Brilliant. It really is superb. And that's the other drawback. And so I've just flipped this machine back and put it back into operation position. So I've just gone from upright to operation. And then the brush then has to reset itself back to the flooring you were just on. Which means you either have to wait for it, or so much of the floor doesn't get done. What do you do? And some suction control would be nice on this machine too. You see, the other drawback to the automatic brush is, I think there's one in this house that I can show you on, but if you go straight from one floor to another, so say you go from this carpeted floor onto an unbacked rug, this machine will just rip it to shreds and just pull it in, because the machine has to then reset itself it has to then assess the floor and then change itself, but it can only assess the floor once it's on it. So in other words, the machine has to potentially rip up the floor, the rug, in order to assess that it needs to not rip up the floor. That makes sense? I know I could use the little brush for this, but this does just a good job. This does an equally good job. I'm about to show you the other real failing of this machine too. There you go, do you see it pull it over? Now, this machine does come with a super long hose attachment. Who carries those around? It's fine if you're actually at home, but if you're out using this commercially like me, I'm moving from floor to floor relatively quickly. I don't want to be, I think I've done that step now. I don't want to have to then stop, put a super long hose attachment on just so I can do the stairs. That doesn't make any sense, it's too time consuming. The handle at the back, brilliant. You can pick it up and lift the machine, and that works just fine. However, the brush is still running. What do? Do I keep this in the air the whole time I do the staircase? Well no, what I do is I rest it on the step and tilt it back. But I shouldn't have to be concerned about whether the brush, if I leave the brush like that, I actually have to take the weight of the vacuum. I shouldn't have to do that. It's not a big problem for somebody like me. But for For some people it would be. People who aren't quite as strong as me, that might be a bit of an issue. The reason why I'm doing it square with this upholstery / stair tilt is because this machine's actually quite hard to move around in it. It's just easy to do it that way. Okay, I just had to break the recording there, just so that I could A, move the cameras around, and B, do things that the customer actually needed in a certain order. But we're back on it. Just pop into this little room. This bit's probably off cam. It's only a little, well, it's actually a walk-in cupboard. It's great, especially for the ladies. Right. The only thing I have to take into account when doing rooms like this is a bedroom, but it's also one to use as an office. So the footage will all be low in here, so as not to, what's the word? Compromise. So as not to compromise any information or anything that my lovely customers might have knocking about. Now, ever since I got this machine back, I think I've mentioned in one of my other, well actually I did mention in the updates that I did about me sending this off to SEBO, I mentioned about the suction being better. In some respects, it's too good. Yes, I know, some of you are saying, how can it be too good? On this kind of carpet, you actually probably can't tell. And it's not a massively deep pile. And it takes some pushing. And I think that's what that other customer meant when he was saying to me about how the pile was agitated, when I got that text message that I mentioned earlier. Because it really does get right in, and some people may find that hard. They may find it hard to push on some floors for that very reason. Right, while that machine's running now, what's happened is the cable's got caught underneath the door. So you go and free up the cable, and then the brush lifts up. And then in order to get the machine going again, you have to wait for the brush to go down. Do you see what I mean about how frustrating little things like that are? Oh God, they drive you nuts. It didn't matter so much then because I was on the carpet, but moving on to a half floor, but they just don't make life easy. Right, okay, so as you can see in small spaces, it's not the easiest to manoeuvre. One of the things I do love about this actually is the accessibility of the tools on the back of the machine. I think it's great. It does make life easier. And of course the big plus with the wand being where it is you don't have to bend down to pull it out. That's one of the drawbacks to the Felix. Got to watch my head in here. It's an attic conversion and I have on numerous occasions banged my noggin. It doesn't get an awful lot of dust up here. It's a baby room, so at the moment I just give this a cursory whip round. Okay, let's go. Onwards. Right, now do you remember me saying about unbacked rugs? Yep, you are currently looking at a very rainbow coloured unbacked rug. Now thankfully I do know that this one isn't too bad, it's quite robust. But still, you see what I mean when I push this on? Do you hear that? That one's not too bad, but you can see it moving around. Right, okay. We're not far off now. I don't know if you can tell, but there we go. Because I actually moved the cameras and had to put the vacuum in the upright position, I then had to wait for it to set itself back to the carpet position before I could go forward. You can probably hear in my voice my frustration with that. I think the difference for me with this machine, say compared to the SEBO Felix, is now that this is fixed and operating properly, as in the panel's all shut properly and everything's flush and the suction's spot on, all those kind of little things. Now that that's happening, this machine is actually, I'm really happy with what it does in terms of being a vacuum cleaner and in terms of the above the ground cleaning options with the wand and the tools and the hose, the way it comes out of the wand, etc. The things that I've shown you. Really, really happy with that. And they do, to a large degree, offset the frustrations. But those frustrations, I still believe that potentially this machine is, the continuous brush roll is, it makes it unsafe. It does make it unsafe. It makes it unsafe because, as you've seen in my other review, it did catch on a cable. And it makes it unsafe in that there is a potential for damaging flaws. Okay, so last flaw in this house. Now this is what I would call a soft lino. It is one that would easily score. The brush would easily score this if left running on it. I have seen that happen. Well, I've done it actually at home with a different machine. And it just leaves a brush roll mark on the floor. And it's permanent damage, you can't get that kind of stuff out. The only option is to replace the floor. Right, you remember I talked about unbacked rugs? This is one of those unbacked rugs. If I were to put this machine over there, it would rip that to shreds. If I could turn the brushes off and reduce the suction, it wouldn't matter. But I can't. So consequently, I can't vacuum that. And the best I can do is to shake it out on the floor and vacuum up the residue. And a lot of people have those kind of jute rugs, those soft, fleecy type rugs these days that are unbacked. And all you can really do with those from a consumer point of view is chuck them in the wash, but from a cleaning point of view, you can't touch them. Not with a vacuum. Okay, so that's that house cleaned. And I am very grateful to Laura and Chris for allowing me to use their house to demonstrate this. What did you think of the machine? Have you got one? Is your experience with it similar to mine? Let me know in the comments. If you've got any questions about this machine, by all means ask them in the comments. I will stick a link to where you can buy one. Don't do what I did and get a refurbished one, you're taking a gamble with that. It might be worthwhile checking out why I initially slated that machine, and it'll pop up in one of these boxes here. It's in the playlist for this machine. So if you like this, by all means give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, check out my Shark reviews, my SEBO Felix reviews, my Hoover H reviews, and reviews for other things. If you like camping and stuff, I also do camping videos and all sorts of other bits and pieces. At the moment you might have seen that I'm talking a lot about my dad who's got cancer. Thank you so much for watching and clicking on this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you soon.